Yeah, it's Numbers Don't Lie, powered by SOFASCORE here on CBS Sports. Golazo, JayDee Dyer, Nico Cantor, ready to get into this debate. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, we want you guys to chime in, give us your comments, interact with us, because actually via an interaction from last week on our Instagram, we got this debate. Pedri versus Vitinha. Renee shouted us out and she wanted us to discuss this topic. So, we will.
Can we not get a HD picture of Renee? Sorry, Renee. It was meant to be your moment to shine.
So, listen, these are all the competitions, and these are their stats. Touches per game. Vitinha is much more on the ball than Pedri is. You compare their assists. They're both tied at 5. Their SOFASCORE rating is pretty similar. And this is us ranking all the midfielders in the top 5 leagues. And we're going to break down category by category to see who has an advantage and who is the better player between these two, JD.
Yeah, it's incredible. We can actually decide in terms of with all of the functions, all of the things that are required in the modern midfielder to really debate what is apples and pears, arguably the best two in the game. And they give different things, but they're very similar at the same time. And especially when you look at their heat map, Nico, look at it all the way through. You know what I love? When I see my midfielders covering this amount of yards and dominating the spaces in this amount of areas, it really does tell me how often these two are on the ball, how hard they're working, but most importantly, how much they're impacting the game.
And how they influence. Vitinha is also taking corners. But, I mean, the fact, I think we do get a feel that Vitinha drops deeper, but I feel like because Pedri's influence is so offensive, we don't often take this into consideration when we're talking about Pedri. Let's take a look, though, how much they do impact the game. You did mention it. So we're going to have a scatter plot of midfielders in general, and between Vitinha and Pedri, when you consider the touches per 90 and the final third entries per 90, and there's not that many midfielders close to them. It is Vitinha, it is Pedri, and Kimmich. Joshua Kimmich is in there, who kind of deserves a shout into this conversation as well.
I think this really does identify, first of all, because the touches and especially the final third entries, this is what you want from your modern midfielders now, especially in a game which is so possession-based, so based in terms of what the opposition can do to you and how you can impact that. That really identifies to me how these two are the pinnacle when it comes to centre midfielders. There are a few more names that we could throw in there, of course, the Gavis, the Declan Rices, the Caicedos, but they all impact the game differently. These two have a very similar mould, and they have a very similar role in terms of being dictators for their team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Kimmich does enter that conversation. Rodri kind of enters that conversation. But look how far away they stray from the mean. And obviously, you need to consider what their opposition is like and their day-to-day. That maybe helps them boost their numbers. Regardless, you still have to go out there and do it and be influential. Let's take a look at the categories and compare player by player.
Because this is what Renee wants to know, right? How we've decided to separate these two teams. The technical ability, chance created, goal threat, work rate, game control, and consistency is, I think, the factors that define what is a modern midfielder. Now, you look at these two players, we're not sitting here saying that either of them don't have it at the highest level. They're generational talents. And when I only realized when we were doing our research how young they both were, we could live with these two for another 10 years if we really wanted to, especially because now Luka Modric is showcasing you can play well into your 40s.
So before we get into it, we just want you guys to understand that we are choosing these categories first, and then SOFASCORE in the second column is going to choose who their pick is. So we're kind of like the eye test. This is what we believe without diving too deep into the numbers.
Facts.
And then SOFASCORE themselves will use the number to determine who the best midfielder in the world is between these two.
I tell you what, he's not telling you too. We have no idea in terms of what we both chose. So in terms of her technical ability, I actually gave the nod to Vitinha. And not because Pedri is not technically gifted, not because he's not a beautiful footballer. I love how tight he is in those spaces.
So you're saying Pedri sucks, by the way?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to have the Barcelona haters online. You know me. You know how I feel. You know exactly what I feel about Pedri and Gavi in terms of what they've done coming through the system. But the only reason why I'm giving it to Vitinha in this situation is purely because of the tactical awareness combined with the technical awareness. I mean, he is the prototype, in my personal opinion, of what the defensive line midfielders are supposed to be today. Not only because he knows how to dictate the areas in terms of those small touches around the corner, not only because he can make those progressive passes beyond the line, we also always focus on the fact that technical ability is almost like it's a first touch or how flashy flashy do you look? This guy makes football look effortless. And he makes football look effortless by being able to turn over both shoulders, dictating the tempo from a different way. But the range and the weight of pass, I think he might be the best passer in the world of football right now. And so the touches, the weight, the passing, the dictatorship, all dictates towards what I say I'm giving him enough for the technical ability.
Fair. You convinced me. I think Pedri takes more risks. I think Vitinha helps dictate the game a little bit more for
100%.
his team, where Pedri does have a couple of other players like a Frankie de Jong when they're both fit. But when I'm talking about risk, I'm talking about chance creation. I'm talking about, key passes, helping Barcelona score. And that's why I would give the nod to Pedri. Not that Vitinha can't just have a goal, have an assist, but the creativity. I just feel like Pedri is different in that sense, in the way that he's able to open up the game close to goal. I like him better in that category.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it because, again, as we say, we're choosing between two world-class talents. It's apples and pears. It really is your preference. I will say to you, though, there is something special when Vitinha receives the ball deep, he plays the progressive pass and then goes to collect it again, and he makes the final ball, the killer pass in between the lines. Pedri is special, though, because he can do it as an individual by turning over both shoulders, and the fluidity that he has is indescribable. But we're speaking about goal threats now. Now, I don't even necessarily think either of these two are massive goal threats, but I gave Vitinha the goal threat purely because I do believe that when he makes those final passes, he can sometimes be the decider in terms of the weight of pass, the final touch, the little passes, the first time passes around the corner. He unlocks so many teams by not just scoring, but also by dictating and assisting and by providing key passes.
And I think Vitinha has that quality where he can just pull up right at the edge of the box.
Timing is everything.
Around the D, maybe even further out. He's got that long distance threat to him also. I'll give Vitinha that category. And also work rate. I also did give Vitinha this one here in this category, but it's not to say that Pedri doesn't have it, and I feel like when we do choose between one and the other, we do ignore what the other one is. I asked a colleague of mine, who do you think he resembles more, Pedri, Iniesta or Xavi?
What did he say?
And he said, more Iniesta, but he's also got Xavi in him, because he does have that work rate where he's receiving deeper. Pedri's defensive actions are actually very good as well. If you look at his recovery, he covers a lot of ground. So he's kind of like a hybrid of both. He's not fully Iniesta, he's not fully Xavi, but he has a little bit of both. But Vitinha's just a different type of player in that sense, where he is constantly, and you know where you see it a lot? In his hair. In Vitinha's hair, because he's constantly jogging and that hair flops up and down. It's never static, so you kind of even see it in the persona that he's always moving. He's always has that work rate high.
I like this. Now, this is the one that's going to cause a debate. This is the one that I know on the comments, on the timelines, everyone's going to be like, how could you choose between the two? Well, I'm going to give Vitinha the nod in terms of game control. Let me land and explain why. While my boy over here I know he's fuming with me. Let me explain. Luis Enrique's system is incredibly fluid. There's no two ways about it. He is a Spanish manager by birth. We know where, in terms of where he's got his discipleship and where he's developed his style of play from. He's translated that into Paris Saint-Germain, and the heartbeat of that is Vitinha, because there is a different type of teams that they play. They play teams with the mid-block, and of course, Vitinha then drops in between the two centre-halves, picks up the ball nice and early, then plays that progressive, maybe a 30, 40-yard pass, and all of a sudden, Paris Saint-Germain, they're gone. That's how quickly they can do it. And when you have Dembele, Doué, and so many other players in the transition, but recognise where the passes come from, then there's the adverse, where they play these teams in the low block, where we see in League A all the time. And then it requires Vitinha to play in a different pocket. It requires him to play just around the D. It requires him to play little pockets, little balls around the corner, the 5 yards, the 10-yard passes, which aren't always shown up in the stat sheet. We call it the pass before the pass. That, for me, is the prototype of a game controller. And this guy as well, when you're talking about world football, over 100 touches in a game is normal to him. I cannot explain it, how difficult that is to do across 90 minutes and how seamlessly easy he makes it look. That's my sell. That's my sell for game control.
Yeah, I mean, when you mention it like that, I do kind of agree, game control. I'm trying to think, if you remove both players from both their teams, who do you think loses more?
Who loses
Does PSG become a worse team without Vitinha, or does Barca become a worse team without Pedri?
I think Barcelona have had a bigger body of work without Pedri to turn around and identify, because of his injury problems and his fitness concerns. And Vitinha has been the heartbeat, the consistency, the other elements. So I'm interested to know where you're going with consistency.
So That's a perfect segue to this last category, and I think it's going to be a landslide for Vitinha because consistency does take into account minutes played, games missed, and Pedri has missed a lot of games. Sure, it's like, where is that performance? Like the consistency in the performances, you're splitting hairs here. To me, I almost want to consider in the big matches who has had the better games. Like it's almost like you're defined in the greatness in the annals of Champions League history, of European football history, your performances in the big matches. Vitinha does have a Champions League final to show for.
Just before we bring the SOFASCORE scores, I'm so glad my brother just threw me an alley-oop because I really wanted to make sure you identified that point. The big games. Bear in mind, these two have met in a Nations League final.
Yeah.
And who was victorious? Regardless if it was penalties, we watched the game. We understood even in extra time. Vitinha was the better player on that day. The Champions League. This guy has won the Champions League.
Yeah.
The domestic titles, whether you call it a Farmers League or not, has been won by this individual. 26 years old and still looking sharp and good.
Before we move on to what SOFASCORE thinks, and that's what this second category is. Okay, whatever. We moved on to it. Let's just do it anyway. I was going to ask you a question. So we got, wow.
Oh, okay, they agreed with us a lot of it, though. One, two, 3, 4, 5. Work rate, though. Yeah, come on, they're not watching Pedri. Pedri is working a lot off the ball. I will give you that one.
I know Pedri.
I'm watching you.
I'm working off the ball a lot. Like, I get that. It's actually, I would have sworn that the numbers still would have said that Vitinha was going to have the higher work rate. But I'm okay with this because because I know it's a facet of Pedri's game that often isn't highlighted because in the attacking third, he is so influential. He is so good. He is so attractive to watch. It's just, it's different. And that's why I want to throw out this question.
Hit me.
Who do you want to have on your team?
Oh,
like if there was another category, you know, who do you want?
I couldn't. If it depends on what the occasion is. Now listen to this. If I'm talking about over the longevity of a season and I get the development, I'm telling you now, Pedri, if I can keep him fit, it's something that we probably have never seen in world football. But Vitinha, if I'm relying on one game and I need someone to go and be the best player on the pitch for one evening, I'm trusting that individual. He might walk off. He might play 11 against any midfielder in the history of world football and look as good as anybody.
So this is where this is a stats versus feeling conversation at this point. Because I'll tell you what, Vitinha is a player that we've seen in football.
100%.
He is special, without a doubt. I'm not saying he's just like everybody else, but those players that want to sit deep and start and construct and take the play themselves, right? Those rhythm makers, those music makers, the football has to go through their feet. But what he gives you to just open up the game, he does something beautiful.
Yeah. 100%.
He's different in that sense. And there's a lot of players that do beautiful things, but he does it in a very Pedri way where it's just like,
I got exactly what it is.
Blows your mind.
I know exactly what it is, my brother. I know exactly what it is because we both love this game so much. The eyes tell me that Vitinha is special and how beautiful he is. But my heart tells me when I watch this guy that he is something that I might not ever see again. Yeah. And that is really the difference between the two. Yeah. Renee, we appreciate you, man. That was an incredible debate.
Not bad. I mean, it's the reincarnation of Xavi and Iniesta, and perhaps you can't explain that in stats, but the numbers do say that Vitinha is the better between the two. Let us know what you guys think. Hey, thanks for watching this video from Numbers Don't Lie. Be sure to catch our show every Monday at 5 p.m. on YouTube. And for news and insights from leagues all around the world, including Serie A, EFL, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.